This is The Wire for 2000 Zulu, June 11th, 2025. Precedence is priority. Information cutoff is 1900. Bottom line up front. Indications and warnings emerge regarding developments in Middle East. Riots continue to expand in many major U.S. cities. Riots in Northern Ireland become more kinetic. Beginning with international events, in the Middle East, indications and warnings are growing regarding an unknown threat to the United States throughout the region. Reports have emerged indicating that the U.S. Navy base in Bahrain is at an increased defensive posture and that non-essential staffers and their families are currently being evacuated from American embassies in Baghdad, Kuwait, and Bahrain. A few moments ago, the United Kingdom Maritime Trade Organization office also issued a very vague warning statement advising mariners to be advised of increasing tensions through the Strait of Hormuz. Analysts comment. At the moment, none of this is confirmed, but the rumors are trickling out anyway since this appears to be a very time-sensitive threat, whatever it is. Nobody knows what's going on for sure, but a lot of diplomatic stations and military bases are at an increased level of readiness right now, which looks to be related to a very specific threat of some kind. Shooting from the hip without any solid detail to go on, this could be related to an imminent Iranian nuclear test, or it could be related to Israel launching preemptive strikes to prevent such. Either way, the threat is extremely vague, but the heightened readiness seems real enough. In Northern Ireland, protests transitioned into rioting throughout several cities overnight from a few different perspectives. Originally, riots broke out over the weekend in response to immigration issues and the assault of a child. However, as unrest has spread, opportunistic criminals have taken advantage of the fray to conduct looting that was unrelated to the initial incident. On the home front in the United States, counter-ICE protests have emerged in several major cities around the nation. So far, most of the more disruptive events have taken place in Los Angeles, Dallas, Austin, Seattle, Chicago, Atlanta, New York City, Providence, and Denver. In Ohio, this morning evacuations were ordered for Vinton County after an industrial accident occurred at a local explosives factory in MacArthur. Local authorities state that a very large tank of nitric acid began leaking at Austin Powders this morning, prompting the creation of a substantially large evacuation zone. The FAA has also placed a 30-mile temporary flight restriction over the facility as the contents of the tank continue to present a hazard to the general area. Analyst comments for this wire. Last night, the city of Los Angeles implemented a curfew for the city center in an attempt to quell the rioting. Mass arrests were made in the downtown LA area, however, a state of civil unrest remains as demonstrations and protests have remained fairly persistent over the past week. Regarding the protest events for this weekend nationwide, roughly 1,655 events are scheduled for June 14th, most of which are being conducted and organized by the No Kings cause. Of course, it is highly likely that not all of these 1,600 plus events will take place. However, there is always the possibility that areas which have no history of political unrest may be the recipient of general shenanigans this weekend. This concludes The Wire for 2000 Zulu, June 11th, 2025.